Most people believe calm is something you're born with. They look at others and think, he's just naturally calm, she doesn't get bothered like I do, that's just their personality, and that belief quietly sabotages them. Because if calm is a trait, something you either have or don't, then there's no point trying to develop it. You either accept being reactive or envy those who aren't. But that belief is false. The Stoics never treated calm as a temperament. They treated it as a trained condition of the mind, something built, something practiced, something earned through repetition and understanding. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People you think are naturally calm feel the same initial impulses you do. They notice irritation, they feel tension, they experience emotional spikes. The difference is not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of skill. Most people confuse calm with emotional numbness. They imagine it means feeling less, caring less, being detached from life. That's not calm, that's avoidance. Real calm is clarity under pressure. It's the ability to remain steady while emotions still pass through you. And this is where most people get stuck. They wait for calm to appear. They tell themselves, I'll be calm when things settle down. I'll be calm when people change. I'll be calm when life stops testing me. But calm never arrives that way, because calm is not a reward, it's a response. The Stoics understood something modern culture ignores. Life does not become calm before you learn to be calm. Life remains unpredictable. People remain difficult. Circumstances remain uncertain. Calm is built in the middle of that chaos, not outside it. This is why some people improve with pressure, while others collapse under it. One group treats calm as a skill to train. The other treats calm as something to hope for. Think about how any real skill works. Strength isn't a personality trait. Focus isn't a personality trait. Discipline isn't a personality trait. They're built through deliberate practice. Calm is no different, but unlike physical skills, this one is invisible. No one sees the repetitions. No one notices the restraint. No one witnesses the internal adjustments. They only see the result, and they call it natural. In this video, you're going to understand why calm feels unreachable to most people, and why it isn't. You'll see what actually disrupts calm, why trying to stay calm never works, and how the Stoics trained steadiness without suppressing emotion or pretending to be unaffected. Because once you stop treating calm as a personality trait and start treating it as a skill, everything changes. And the first step is understanding what's been quietly breaking your calm all along. People often believe calm appears naturally, that some people are simply born steady, while others are wired to be reactive. But that belief doesn't survive scrutiny. No one enters the world calm. Every human nervous system is designed to react first and think later. Your brain evolved for survival, not serenity. When something feels threatening, your system doesn't pause to analyze. It accelerates, heart rate rises, breathing shortens, attention narrows. This isn't weakness, it's biology. The problem begins when people mistake this reaction for a permanent identity. They say, that's just how I am. I'm a hot-headed person. I can't help overthinking. But reactions are not traits, they are habits. And habits are learned through repetition. Every time you react immediately, the mind reinforces the pattern: stimulus, emotion, action. Over time, this sequence feels automatic, but automatic does not mean uncontrollable. It means unexamined. Calm people are not people without reactions. They are people who've inserted a pause between what happens and what they do next. That pause wasn't given to them. It was trained, slowly, uncomfortably, deliberately. And this is where most people quit. Because learning calm feels worse at first. You become more aware of tension, not less. You notice the urge to react, instead of being consumed by it. To the untrained mind, this feels like failure. But in reality, this awareness is the beginning of control. You don't eliminate reactions, you outgrow them. And that growth always starts by seeing the reaction clearly, without obeying it. That's the skill Stoics focused on first. Not suppression, not positivity, but disciplined observation. Because once you can see a reaction forming, you are no longer inside it, and that's where calm quietly begins. Calm is never lost during the event itself. It's lost in the interpretation. This is where most people misunderstand what happens inside them. Someone speaks harshly, a plan falls apart, a delay appears, an expectation is violated, and the mind immediately adds meaning. This shouldn't be happening. They're disrespecting me. This ruins everything. I can't tolerate this. That silent commentary happens so fast it feels invisible. But it's there, and it's decisive. The Stoics understood something modern psychology later confirmed. Emotions don't come from events, they come from judgments about events. The same situation, filtered through a different judgment, produces a different emotional outcome. This is why one person feels insulted while another feels indifferent, why one feels anxious while another remains steady. The nervous system reacts, but the mind decides how far that reaction goes. Calm disappears the moment the mind declares, "This must not be." That declaration creates resistance, and resistance creates suffering. Not the event, not the words, not the delay, the resistance. This is why fighting emotions rarely works. You're battling the surface, not the source. Stoic practice doesn't ask you to deny the reaction. It asks you to question the judgment fueling it. What exactly am I saying about this moment? What rule of mine feels violated right now? What expectation just collapsed? These questions slow the process, and slowing is power. The instant you examine the judgment, you interrupt the emotional chain. Stimulus, interpretation, reaction. Remove blind interpretation, and reaction weakens. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. You stop reacting to imagined meanings and respond only to what is real. This is where calm becomes accessible, not by force, not by control, but by clarity. And clarity is always available, the moment you turn inward, instead of outward. Most people never do this. They live at the mercy of their first interpretation. The Stoics trained themselves to live one layer deeper, and that single layer is the difference between chaos and composure. Most people wait for calm to arrive. They think calm appears when life slows down, when people behave better, when circumstances improve. The Stoics rejected this completely. They treated calm the way a soldier treats readiness, as something trained, not something hoped for. Calm to a Stoic was not the absence of emotion, it was the presence of discipline. This is why calm people don't look numb. They look grounded. They still feel pressure. They still notice irritation. They still experience discomfort. But they don't collapse into it. The difference is not temperament, it's preparation. Stoic training happens before the moment of stress, not during it. You rehearse loss in advance. You imagine delay in advance. You accept insult in advance. Not to suffer, but to remove surprise. Because surprise is what breaks calm. When the mind expects perfection, any deviation feels like an attack. When the mind expects friction, nothing feels personal. This is why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would meet interference, ingratitude, and arrogance, not to become bitter, but to stay steady. Calm survives where expectation has already been adjusted. This is the core Stoic insight. You don't master emotions in the moment. You condition the mind beforehand. Small practices build this skill. Pausing before interpretation, naming the judgment silently, reminding yourself this is uncomfortable, not unbearable. Each repetition strengthens the gap between stimulus and response, and that gap is where freedom lives. Over time, calm stops feeling like effort. It becomes default, not because life became easier, but because your inner posture became stable. This is how calm is trained, quietly, daily, without drama. And once this skill forms, external chaos loses its leverage. You are no longer calm by accident, you are calm by design. At this point, something should feel different. Not emotionally dramatic, not motivational, quieter, clearer. You've seen that calm is not a personality trait, it's not luck, and it's not emotional numbness. It's a trained relationship with your own reactions. You've seen that emotions don't disappear through force, they lose power through understanding, through preparation, through disciplined perception. This is what separates Stoicism from surface-level advice. It doesn't ask you to feel better. It teaches you to see more accurately. And accuracy creates calm. When you stop expecting the world to cooperate, you stop feeling personally attacked by reality. When you stop demanding emotional comfort, you gain psychological strength. Calm then becomes part of your identity. Not something you chase, but something you practice. This is why Stoics focused so heavily on daily mental habits. Not grand moments, not dramatic breakthroughs, small corrections, repeated awareness, consistent restraint. Over time, these shape how you meet pressure. You no longer ask, how do I get rid of this feeling? You ask, what judgment am I accepting without question? That single shift changes everything. Because the moment you question the judgment, the emotion loosens its grip. And when emotions lose authority, choice returns. This is not the end of the practice. It's the foundation. In the next video, we bring this skill into daily life, not through withdrawal, not through emotional suppression, but through a Stoic discipline known as creating inner distance, the ability to stay engaged with the world without being pulled apart by it. This is where theory becomes lived experience.